What's up, everybody? Welcome to the video. Chris out here breaking down week 4 for the NFL season for DraftKings and FanDuel. Early look edition, more of a casual laid back video as we kind of take a first reaction to the entire slate, looking at pricing, looking at matchups. We'll try to put a lineup together as we talk through it. And then, of course, later in the week on Saturday, we'll go game by game, breaking it all down, talking cash games, tournaments, stacks, running the optimizer, amongst other things. So if that all sounds fine and dandy to you, do me a favor, make sure you leave a like down below. Scott Chan for brand new. Let's dive right into it. And really quick, if you do like what you see on the screen today, you can find it available on my website, cpendfs.com, that I built myself. I'm not a big company, just one person, so doing best out here, but tons of content over there if you want to come in and check it out. And you can find the link down in the description or the pinned comment for that. And if you do sign up, you get a free trial as well for the first 7 days. And as always, we'll start with the quarterback position because this is the cornerstone of our lineup. It sets the foundation, sets the tone for the rest of our build. Like if we have Justin Herbert, we're going to be entrenched into this Chargers and Giants game for a decent portion of our build. But pretty loaded quarterback slate, kind of the opposite of last week in my opinion. All the good quarterbacks are basically on this one. The primetime games look pretty bad. The Monday night doubleheader is atrocious. Thursday game it's pretty mid. So we're kind of just stuck with all the good quarterbacks on the slate, which does make it fun. I even let the couple off here. We don't know if Jaden Daniels is playing, but he is on this slate. Baker Mayfield's on this slate. I let a couple other guys off too, but right now, this is the early player pool, the guys that stood out to me. Now, I have not yet run projections. I do that on Wednesday night. So, like I said, this is more of just looking at doing the eye test on the slate and seeing what stands out to me. And of course, if you have the money for the big three on this one, I'm going to say that is Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Jalen Hurts. By all means, you can play them pretty much every single week. They're typically matchup proof. But I will tell you right now, Josh Allen with a 32.5 implied team total. That is one of the highest, if not the highest implied team total I have seen in recent memory. The only concern I would have is that, say he's not the one that gets the touchdowns early in the second half, they're up 30 by chance. They really wouldn't need Josh Allen to push it, and then you get stuck with 12 points. Decent day yardage wise, but maybe James Cook steals all the touchdowns. Ray Davis gets in, starts stealing touchdowns. That's the only concern with Josh Allen. He's going to project as the QB1 this week. It's just impossible not to with that total and playing at home, but just be fair warned that things could go sideways if he's not the one that gets the early touchdowns. Lamar Jackson, it's a big game versus Kansas City. One of these teams is going to go 1-3, which is insane. They're on the road in KC, which I don't love for Lamar Jackson, but his floor with the rushing upside and honestly, touchdown-wise, he's been great this year as well, averaging 3 touchdowns per game. Did have some garbage time yards and a garbage time touchdown to mark it. I don't even know if I want to say it's garbage time because they did put them within one score and they sold the onside kick, but I think you guys understand what I mean. I don't usually expect him to be a demon through the air. It's not a great matchup though, but like I said, he's always going to have that floor. And this game will definitely be closer and back and forth, more so than Josh Allen versus the New Orleans Saints. And then Jalen Hurts, it's just the tush push upside here. Now, he did have a pretty good day through the air last week with a few touchdowns. Definitely don't want to expect that going forward. It's just not a team that really throws the football. We're talking 25 pass attempts per game, only 6.2 yards per attempt. For example, Lamar Jackson also only throws the ball 25 times per game, but at least he's a little bit more efficient at 9.6 yards per attempt with similar completion percentages. But tush push upside, rushing touchdown floor, that price point, Jalen Hurts is always going to be viable. And after that, we get a little bit more fun. They're not as obvious. You have Justin Herbert, Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Geno Smith. I do think Omarion Hampton's going to have some decent ownership this week. So if you're trying to get off that, I do like the passing game here for the Los Angeles Chargers. They're going to be on the road in New York. Would I prefer them to be at home? Sure. 25.5 implied team total. I thought it might be a little bit higher, but I think the stacks are pretty easy. With Herbert, he has been incredible this year. They're throwing the ball a ton, 36 pass attempts per game, and he's been great, averaging nearly 300 passing yards. And the New York Giants are currently 27th versus fantasy quarterbacks this season. So at that price point, the stacking options are very easy. Keenan Allen, Ladd McConkey, and Quentin Johnston, who has been awesome. I definitely like that in tournaments. And then Caleb Williams, at his price point, I think he's fine with the stacking options we have with them. Obviously, a great game last week versus the Dallas Cowboys. It was just a battle of no defenses, and it was CeeDee Lamb going down. It was just kind of a brutal day for Dallas, but great day for Chicago. But once again, pretty soft matchup here versus the Las Vegas Raiders. Our defense is really nothing to be scared of. And once again, the stacking options are pretty easy. I kind of view it as a similar spot to Los Angeles Chargers. You have Roma Dunze and DJ Moore for the main components. And then you have the tight end situation, although Loveland did get a bit banged up last week. Drake May gets the Carolina Panthers, who, funny enough, are actually allowing the fewest points per game to the quarterback position this year, which is crazy, but I don't expect that to be the case going forward. I'm still perfectly fine with Drake May, 25.5 point implied team total, playing at home at his price point. The stacking options are a bit weird. Hunter Henry went off last week. Wide receiver situation, it's very hard to predict. But if you are stacking with Drake May, obviously Hunter Henry's fine. If you want to double stack, you can do that. But just run the ball a little bit, which does keep the floor nice, averaging only 30 rushing yards per game on 7 rushing attempts, which at that price point, I mean, you're not really complaining too much. And then Geno Smith is on here because it's the Chicago Bears. They're allowing the third most fantasy points for the quarterback position so far, which I realize we're talking about a small sample size, but this is not a defense we expect to offer too much resistance to quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends as the season progresses. And the double stacks with Geno are very cheap and very easy to make. Brock Bowers is not overly expensive. The tight end position is also a little bit weird on this slate. And then Jacoby Myers, who is the wide receiver 1 in this team, is also at a fair price point. Now, of course, Trey Tucker and Thornton are going to be a little bit hard to project on a week-to-week basis. Tucker went off last week. I mean, he could easily bust this week, but there is options out there. All right, moving over to our build. It's going to be gross with the quarterback I'm going with because there's lots of good options, but we always double stack in this video, and I think it's very easy to double stack with this guy and afford good expensive options elsewhere. But we're going to scroll down a little bit and go with Geno Smith versus the Chicago Bears. In preliminary props, there's not a ton out there, but I believe I saw Geno Smith top 1, top 2 as far as the passing yards prop is concerned. So at $5,400, we'll take our chances at home and we'll move on to running back. And I wouldn't say it's as easy as last week. Last week seemed very easy at the running back position. You played CMC, you played Jordan Mason, you played Ken Walker. Fortunately, he bailed you out with touchdowns. And you play Jonathan Taylor. This week, I wouldn't say it's as easy. I think a lot of people probably go with Omarion Hampton down low, who we'll talk about with Najee Harris being gone sub 6K versus the Giants. That makes plenty of sense to me. They're allowing the 5th most points per game to the running back position this year. Nice implied team total. They're also 6-point favorites. I get it. Omarion Hampton does make sense for value this week. But other than that, kind of tough, I would say. I don't really get too concerned about matchups too much, but it's a very small sample size as well. But funny enough, the top 3 guys here, McCaffrey, Bijan, and Jonathan Taylor. The Jaguars allowing the 4th fewest points against running backs. The Commanders are at 3rd, and the Rams are actually allowing the fewest. So something's going to give here. I'm going to give the edge to the elite running backs, especially the ones that are involved in the passing game, which looking at you, CMC, and Bijan Robinson. But let's talk about CMC's usage this year. We're talking about a guy that's at 28 opportunities per game. That's rushing attempts plus targets. Bijan's at 21.7, Taylor's at 23. Those are elite numbers, but CMC is in his own tier. In his involvement in the passing game, he is getting wide receiver 1 numbers. There's a lot of wide receiver 1s that wish they had CMC's receiving numbers this year. 23.6% target share, 10.7 targets, 8.3 receptions, and 71 yards through the air. That is a wide receiver 1. And he also gets the ball nearly 20 times on the ground. Now, he's been highly inefficient at 3.4 yards per carry. Now it's been a bit of a mess. The defense is kind of easy to where it's just like, yeah, let's try to stop CMC. We'll let him leak out and get some receptions. But the Niners are winning still, and at 26.5 implied team total, they're playing at home. If we have the money, CMC is still the top option for me. Like I said, I have not yet in projections, but if I had to guess, it's going to be north of 20 points, and it honestly might land in that 20 to 24 range, maybe even on the upper of that. So if I am spending up, at CMC, I think is kind of the easy choice with his involvement in the passing game. The floor is unbeatable. No running back has a better floor than CMC. Bijan's fine. I think he's just kind of like the slightly worse version of CMC. He's been using the passing game too. 6 targets per game, 4.5 receptions, 19% target share. Those are elite numbers. It just doesn't look as good compared to CMC. And the Falcons' offense last week was brutal. And that's versus the Carolina Panthers, which was a major concern. Michael Penix definitely not looking that great. Jonathan Taylor has been incredible. If you're going to play Jonathan Taylor this week, it makes a lot more sense to play him on DraftKings than it does on FanDuel. He's $200 more expensive than CMC on FanDuel, $1,000 cheaper on DraftKings. Don't love the matchup on the road, but he's going to get the volume, and he's been fantastic this year, 5.6 yards per carry. And the Colts offense has been pretty good under Daniel Jones. Everybody else here is pretty cheap, and you're not really going your way to afford them. Kyron Williams is just a volume hog. Good implied team total here at 27.5, playing at home, 3.5 point favorites. Not that involved in the passing game, only an 8.3% target share, but when you're going to get nearly 20 carries on the ground, decent chance you find the end zone with that implied team total. Ashton Genty has been terrible this year. Maybe not himself. The offensive line, I understand, is a big issue, but either way, the production hasn't really been there so far. 3.1 yards per carry, only averaging 48 rushing yards per game. I think I saw a very insane stat for his rushing yards after contact compared to his total rushing yards. So it's been a little bit brutal on that team. Also not really involved in the passing game too much, only an 8% target share and 1.5 receiving yards per game. It's a good matchup for Chicago though, so if there's ever going to be a time for it to change, I think this would be a good one. Although in our specific lineup right now, we have Geno Smith, so we're going to forego going with Ashton Genty. Omarion Hampton, I think, is probably going to be fairly easy chalk this week. We talked about that. Tyrone Tracy is going to be out for a while. Cam Scatterbo looked awesome. The new age Peyton Hillis I guess if that's what you would call him, looked really good versus the Kansas City Chiefs, involved in the passing game, involved on the ground quite heavily. Now, there is not going to be Russell Wilson this week, so we'll see if Jackson Dart checks it down through Cam Scatterbo as much. But either way, at $5,500, I think he's fine. And on FanDuel, really cheap, 54, and you compare that to Omar Hampton or Ashton Genty, talking well over $1,000 cheaper. So he's definitely someone to watch over there. And then Quinshon Judkins, ever since he took over the RB1 role for the Browns, he's been getting pretty solid volume. He's been pretty efficient, 5.5 yards per carry. Don't love the game script here. Don't love the matchup versus Detroit, but it's mainly just a price point thing here. And usually I just put my two favorite running back plays here, and then if I have to change it due to salary concerns, I do that at the end. But since our Las Vegas Chicago stack, I really don't think is going to break the bank too bad. But let's just throw my two favorites right now. We're going to go with CMC, $8,500, and then we'll save a little bit of money with Omar and Hampton. I really like the Chargers in this one, but since I don't have the passing attack, I want a piece of that game. So we'll just easily slide in Hampton. And as I always say for wide receivers, I usually don't spend too much time here because we've already talked about the quarterbacks I like. And the quarterbacks I like are directly tied to the wide receivers I would like. If I like Justin Herbert, he's not scoring 30 points himself. He's going to have to get some help from somewhere. So I would look directly at QJ, Keenan Allen, and Ladd McConkey. And the fact that Ladd McConkey is still $1,000 more expensive than Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnston makes no sense to me. I played Justin Herbert. I did a Chargers and Broncos stack last week, and I was dead last until the very end and ended up cashing my single entry. But I had Herbert paired with Keenan Allen, Ladd McConkey, running back with Courtland Sutton, all single-digit ownership, which is fantastic. But I still played Ladd just to get the double stack in, but there is no reason for him to be that more expensive. If we're looking at just the trio specifically this year, Ladd's sporting a 23% target share. Quentin Johnston has a 23% target share. And Keenan Allen has a 28% target share. Like, he's the most expensive, and he's pretty much, I mean, they're all pretty equal, but they should all be around the same price, around $6,000. So, I mean, value-wise, he definitely looks like the worst. He's going to have some games where he pops off, of course, but if Keenan Allen's going to continue to be disrespected at $5,300, he was $4,700 last week, I am just going to keep playing him because he is, I mean, we're talking about a guy that's getting nearly 10 targets per game this year from pretty much the best quarterback so far this year, at least through the air. So, I love it. Puka Nacua, if you have the money for him, the dude has been money all season long. I think there's a very good chance, as long as he stays healthy, and Matthew Stafford, he will be the wide receiver one this year, especially with the quarterback issues from Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. It really opens up Puka Nacua here to slide in as the top wide receiver. 33% target share this year, nearly 10 receptions per game, 11.7 targets, 111 receiving yards, high implied team total this week. Should be a tight game, pretty decent high scoring game as well at 49.5 for the over-under. So yeah, if you got the money, Puka Nacua is definitely the preferred spend-up option in cash games. I think Keenan Allen is cash game viable. Chris Olave, I mean, they're going to be trailing big time here. They're 16.5 point dogs on the road. He's had 12 targets per game this year with a 31% target share, 41% market share of the team's air yards. The only issue is its quarterback sucks, so it doesn't add up to too much. I mean, 7.5 receptions per game and 55 receiving yards, but again, the volume will be there. Everybody else here, we're kind of just talking tournaments. Like Rome Odunze, since we are stacking Geno Smith and the Raiders, I'm probably going to use him as a run back option. I could use DJ Moore as well. I do prefer Rome Odunze. He's looked pretty good this year. AJ Brown finally got in the stat sheets last week. Zay Flowers, if you have Lamar Jackson, although I am fine with playing Lamar Jackson naked. I'm fine with playing Jalen Hurts naked, but if you're not, of course, AJ Brown, fine option. If you are stacking the Chargers up, don't mind running it back with Malik Neighbors. Of course, a horrible game last week with Russell Wilson. Jackson Dart under center. I know it's a rookie. It'll be a first start. We'll see how it goes, but I mean, it can't be any worse than it was, right? Malik Neighbors has always played with bad quarterbacks, so it's nothing we have seen. It's nothing we have not seen before. And I haven't really talked about any of the Lions yet this week, but Amon-Ra St. Brown at $7,300. I think it's a fine play. Now, the Browns defense is really good. We saw that last week. Now, they're going to be on the road this week, so I don't expect them to be as good. I feel like they play better at home. But the Detroit Lions still have one of the highest implied teams on the slate at 27.5. 8.5 point spread here, so I mean, Vegas isn't too concerned. They're still going to put up points. But I'm fine with some individual pieces here, but I'm not sure if I love stacking Detroit just because I do respect that Browns defense. And then Ricky Pearsall, if there's no Juwan Jennings, it's basically just him and CMC on that team. So at $5,700, I think he kind of comes into cash game consideration as well. And back to the build here, we're going to slot in a couple of wide receivers because I'm going with that game stack. So we're going to play Jacoby Myers. I believe he is, $5,400. And since we have Jacoby Myers, I'm going to play Brock Bowers as well for the double stack. And I'm going to try to get DJ Moore or Rome Odunze. If we have to drop down to DJ Moore, we will do that. But for right now, let's throw in Rome Odunze. And then just to make things easy here, before we talk about tight ends, we're going to throw in Brock Bowers. So it leaves us with $4,200 left. You have to factor in a defense probably being around $2,000 to $3,000. That's going to boost it up a bit. Wide receiver and flex won't be premium choices, but that's perfectly fine. Then we have the tight ends, and not a great tight end slate, to be honest. I wouldn't say there's any extreme values, and the spend up's really not even that expensive. I mean, Brock Bowers is most expensive. He's not even $6,000. He hasn't looked that great so far this year. Of course, he has been a little bit hampered from the injury, but he is still being used in the offense, and we know when healthy, he is pretty much the best tight end in the league. And since we have the Geno Smith stack, we're going to plug him in and hoping for the best there. Tyler Warren, the rookie, he's looked incredible. Honestly, his numbers are basically identical to Brock Bowers this year. They're both getting 7 targets per game, both at 4.7 receptions per game, and their receiving yards numbers are within 5. So it's basically been the same thing. It's just Tyler Warren's a bit less expensive. They also have the same implied team total this week, just a bit higher total in that Indy and Rams game. Juwan Johnson has had elite usage so far this year, 27% target share, 9.7 targets per game, 6.3 receptions, 26% market share of the team's air yards. They're expecting to be trailing quite heavily in this game, which that's probably going to be the case most weeks. But 16.5 point dogs. They will not be able to really establish the run too much. So Juwan Johnson, once again, the price has came up a little bit, but I still think he's probably one of the top values this week. And then we have the Browns duo of David Njoku and Harold Fannin. They're basically the same player at this point for fantasy purposes, both averaging right around 40 receiving yards per game, both are right around 4 or 5 receptions, both getting 6 targets, 13% target share, 16% target share, both running similar amount of routes, 62.5% for David Njoku, 64.6% for Harold Fannin. He's also blocking less than David Njoku, and both have very similar market share of the team's area. They're basically the same player, so pick your poison on that. I slightly prefer Harold Fannin right now, but it's not much of a difference. Okay, let's finish this off. 4,200 to play with. Let's throw in a cheap defense so we know what actual money we have. As I always do, I scroll down to the very bottom and see which defense is viable. Browns still cheap. I mean, they're one of the best defenses in the league, but I understand they're on the road in Detroit, so it's a little scary. I think we put the Browns defense in our video last week, though, at the same price point. No chance to play the Saints. Titans versus, honestly, the Titans might not look too bad there versus Houston. I know they're 7-point dogs on the road, but, I mean, CJ Stroud, not really. Hasn't really been him for a couple of years now. Giants defense, no thank you. Jaguars, Panthers. I'm not going to take too much time on defense, guys. Let's just open it up. We're going to play the Titans. Hope for the best there. $5,200 for wide receiver 3 and flex. We do have Amari Hampton already. I don't think it would be a crime to play one of the Chargers wide receivers with him. If you want to go with Keenan Allen, I don't think that would be too much of an issue. We also have Chris Olave there with them trailing. I mean, it's really just dealer's choice at this point. We'll play Chris Olave for now. So we have $5,300 and the flex. And I think that puts us right on Keenan Allen range. Yeah, it does. So honestly, that doesn't look too bad. So that'll be our early look. Yeah, guys, if you're actually building, take more time to do this. But I just try to build a lineup that follows the rules that we do, and you can apply it to your own favorite players, etc., etc. But we have a double stack here with Geno Smith, as fun as that sounds, right? Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers. Ran back with Rome Odunze, Christian McCaffrey and Martin Hampton at the running back positions. Chris Olave and Keenan Allen at our wide receiver 3 and flex, both guys that are probably going to shoot for double-digit targets this weekend, at least close to it. And the Titans defense, because they were cheap and they fit. But with that being said, so for you guys this week, so hope you enjoyed. If you did, or even if you didn't, make sure you leave a like down below. Scott Chan for brand new. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them down below. I'd be more than happy to answer them. We wish you all the best, and I'll see y'all Saturday.